Monsters, movies, and mayhem.
Right. So Murderface, I've been thinking a lot lately that I need to buy a motorcycle.
Now tell me why you need to buy a motorcycle.
Because I think I look good in leather.
I'll tell you what, we make a good leather duo. A couple more guys.
Couple leather daddies.
Couple leather daddies and a couple more guys. We could start our own Santa Cruz biker gang.
Yeah.
That'd be sick.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, welcome back to another installment of Monsters, Movies, and Mayhem. We're your hosts.
Murderface.
And Brian, I Still Believe, Hidalgo.
Oh my god. That song.
Epic.
Epic. Today's movie that we're going into is The Lost Boys. As you can see, we're wearing Lost Boys attire.
Yep.
We really got into this movie.
Definitely. You know,
I Still Believe guy, my favorite character of all time.
The sax man.
Sax. He oiled up.
Buff Kenny G.
Buff Kenny G. Man. But before we get into that, we had quite a week.
We did. A couple of us saw a couple movies.
And a couple of us saw some real gore, some real bloodshed, and that's gonna lead us into our segment, the Gory Hole.
The Gory Hole.
And for those of you that are tuning in for the first time, our Gory Hole segment is a segment where we show where we talk about the goriest thing we saw that week.
Now, Brian, what does that entail? Because if you do go back to some of our other videos, some of the gore varies and some of it is just pretty explicit.
Okay, so it can be anything. It could be from, a video game, a movie, a show. Hell, if you slipped and cut yourself open, that could be the goriest thing you saw that day.
You got high blood pressure. It starts squeezing out of you.
Yeah, so that's exactly what we just like to share, the goriest moment we saw this week.
I like it.
So I'll go first this week.
All right, let's hear it.
So this week, I saw a new movie that was released called Beau is Afraid by Ari Aster.
Now, Ari Aster is quite the director.
He is, but this one isn't as gory as his first two.
Wow.
But there are some scenes that had some blood. This movie's everywhere, man. Like,
right.
I can't pinpoint the genre of the movie. It's definitely like a comedy at some points, then drama, then horror. But
is that what you would expect from Ari Aster?
You know what? His other movies weren't as funny.
There was a little bit of humor in it.
There was some like humor.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about Hereditary, unless you find decapitation funny.
No, but Midsommar had a little bit of jokes in it.
Yeah, Midsommar definitely had more comedy in it. I'm glad he did this after that. He did Midsommar and Hereditary first.
Why is that?
Because if he didn't have a name already, this movie would have been a hard sell. It is really out there. But the goriest moment that I wanted to talk about it is there's a scene. I want to say like a third of the way in.
Spoilers.
It's not a big plot detail.
No.
But he is running out in the middle of the street because he took some medicine and his doctor told him he has to take it with water, but his water is shut off, so he ran out of his apartment like screaming because he's so paranoid and just full of anxiety, thinking that he's gonna die if he doesn't take with water. So he runs out in the middle of the street, and at one point he gets hit by like an RV, and he later wakes up in this couple's house, and they explain to him that they accidentally ran him over, but before they could get to him, he was assaulted by a naked man, stabbing him.
Yeah, sorry about that. It was Saturday night.
Yeah, so you know, it's become an Ari Aster thing to have like old naked people in his movie.
Oh no, that's an A24 thing.
Is it?
That's their signature.
Yeah.
You want to see horror? Check out this naked old person. No, A24 coming this summer.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the naked old man was both horrifying when he was getting stabbed and just hilarious.
Yeah,
like just
the concept is funny. It would be like a funny skit in like a Tim and Eric.
Yeah,
like they would make it funny and it would have that horror undertone, and then Beau's Afraid did the opposite.
Wardrobe malfunction. All right.
Well, my gory hole moment was watching you stab yourself with a new piercing to keep that earring on. But no, that was a good pick. Beau's Afraid. In theaters, was it like, because I know Ari Aster has those big, like, the sound is pretty important in his movies.
Yes, so there was definitely a lot of like sound cues and stuff like that in that movie.
Well, that's all you need to sell me on it for.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a divisive movie.
A lot of his movies are.
Yeah,
but this one's a little more than the others, huh?
Yeah, so it might lose some people, but if you're a true Aster diehard, Ari Aster,
if you're an Aster blaster, this one's for you.
Yeah.
So, moving on to my pick, I saw Ready or Not, the horror movie. I think it was came out in 2016, maybe 2018, but it had this moment. Not to get too into the spoilers, because it is near the ending of the movie. I won't say who, but someone in the movie is standing triumphantly surrounded by other people that are trying to get them, and they basically lose at the last second because they're supposed to run out the clock before dawn.
Yeah.
Sun comes up, and then they're like, oh no, the sun comes up. It's that, you know what that means. And then one of them blows up.
Yeah.
Did you see Ready or Not?
Yes, I remember this scene.
One of them blows up, and then the rest of them start freaking out. They start to like try to try to beg their way, try to bribe their way, but whoever they're talking to, like the deity, doesn't respond, and you just see each of them blow up, and the explosion is awesome because it's from the inside, and it happens so fast. But I was watching on my computer because it's on DVD, and if you slow it down, you can see like the limbs come apart and just turn into particles, like immediately. They just turn red. That
is great.
It was awesome.
I definitely remember that movie and that scene.
For the longest time, I thought that was Margot Robbie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You know what? She's Australian also.
Oh, is she?
Yeah, and Australians for some reason breed like the same people.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, Margot Robbie, Samara Weaving is her name. Hugo Weaving's niece.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, Ready or Not, big
excellent
explosions.
Movie. So some of you might be wondering why we're dressed in our best leather. Tonight's movie we're going to be discussing happens to be a cult classic favorite of ours.
Yeah.
One of the best vampire movies, in my opinion.
Yeah.
An 80s quintessential vampire movie.
Yeah.
The Lost Boys. And some of you might recognize that music, that epic sax music.
Who doesn't know this song by heart?
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to play The Lost Boys, you know you're going to be listening to this greatest hit from the 80s.
You know, this movie, it was produced by Greg Berlanti.
That's right.
Of the Goonies fame.
That's right.
And directed by Joel Schumacher of Batman and Robin.
Batman and Robin came afterwards. So there wasn't any rubber nipples in The Lost Boys.
A lot of half shirts.
A lot of half shirts.
A lot of half shirts and probably like what is those, like mesh tank tops?
Fishnets.
Yeah, the mesh.
But I'm glad the only nipples we saw were from the sax man.
Yep.
In the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, definitely. You know, that character alone is iconic. Like,
so good. I'm glad they put him in there.
Little fun fact,
Mhm.
Murderface. I have a copy of the Lost Boys comic book.
Yeah.
That goes more into detail of like the vampires and stuff.
Mhm.
And the cover on it is the Sax Man.
I saw that.
Yeah.
I looked it up online because I heard those comics.
Yeah.
That's sick. Where'd you get that?
I bought it online. Yeah.
No,
Probably paid more than I should have.
Paid whatever the amount it costs because who doesn't want that?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, let's get into this movie.
Michael and Sam have just moved to Santa Carla, California. They're about to discover its secret.
What's happening to me, Star?
Get yourself a good sharp steak. Drive it right through his heart.
You're a vampire, Michael. My own brother, a damn blood-sucking vampire.
Oh, you wait till Mom finds out, buddy.
When a vampire buys it, it's never a pretty sight.
Michael, they're coming! Oh, shit!
So The Lost Boys came out in July 1987. Do you remember what came out that year?
In 87?
Back in 87?
Oh man, I think this was a hell of a year.
It was.
Oh man, this is like
So
I
in
want to
that
say
year-
this is the equivalent of like season like 7 or 8 of The Simpsons that had like so many good episodes, but this year had like so many good movies.
Predator,
Yeah.
Running Man,
Really?
RoboCop.
Wow.
It also had Full Metal Jacket and La Bamba.
Man, this year, what a year to be around, like alive. Too bad we weren't.
Yeah, I wish.
Yeah.
I would have been there in the movie theater all summer.
Oh man. And this was a perfect like summer, like, you know how sometimes there's summer horror movies?
I mean, when it was my turn to pick a movie, I was like, it's getting warm outside. We're a little bit past spring.
Sun's
and
out,
it's
guns
sun's
out.
guns out. Let's do our leather daddy episode with the Lost Boys.
Yep.
But yeah, it's a
Two
great summer
daddies talking
movie.
about boys.
And they're lost. But the summer hit definitely that year was the Lost Boys.
Yeah.
Not even like a sleeper hit. Everyone, because it was right when Corey Feldman finished The Goonies.
Yeah.
And Corey Haim was about to do License to Drive, and it was right before that.
Yeah. Oh
So
man, such a great year.
Yeah,
Such
the
a
Lost
good-
Boys started the Corey and Corey movie duets.
Did it really?
Yeah, because after this they did like 4 more.
Yeah.
like together.
Yeah. And then one of them passed.
I mean, like 40 years later,
Yeah.
like 2000.
Did you ever watch that? They had a show called
I
like
saw
Corey.
that clip about that, like him explaining like the terrible things that happened to him in Hollywood.
Yeah.
But I didn't see the show, but I
Yeah.
saw that clip.
Yeah, he both Corys had like a show. I think it was called like Corey and Corey or something like that.
Yeah.
But then one of them passed, and you can't do a season 2 if there's only one Corey.
Well, now you can hologram him in.
CGI Corey.
Yeah, CGI Corey. Make him the young one too.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's just a little boy version.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's. Do you want to take the reins on this one?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I just want to ask you, when was the first time you saw this movie?
When was the first time I saw this movie? Yesterday. No.
As a kid?
it definitely was as a kid. This was, if you've been with us since the beginning, you know my history with horror movies. We don't have to get back into that, but I was definitely a late bloomer. But this was one of those that was,
it was everywhere.
It was everywhere, and it was easily digestible for a horror virgin scaredy cat. You know what I mean?
I mean, you can even tell it was a horror movie until like halfway through.
I mean, there's no real deaths. Like, you can't see any of the actual violence towards like almost the end of the movie. There's a couple scenes where we'll get into it, but it's like POV vision of someone getting pulled up into the air, and that's it.
But that's what I like, because sometimes you watch movies and they show the monster or whatever's like scary, right away, and they put like a bright light on them, and you're like, it's not that bad.
No.
In your mind, it was better.
Yeah.
The anticipation made it greater.
Yeah.
And when you don't show it, it was less is more.
Exactly. But yeah, this definitely was one of those like I almost said slumber party, but no. At a sleepover with a couple guys. The Lost Boys. And one of them pulling it out and
he pulled it out, huh?
he pulled out the VHS copy of it, and we sat down and watched it for the first time.
Oh man.
And he was also the first guy that showed me Halloween, but I was still kind of too scared to watch it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, Lost Boys was the first real vampire movie that I really enjoyed.
My first time watching this was in Mexico. I saw it on TV, and it was in English.
Oh, okay.
They showed it in like Spanish TV stations in English with like Spanish subtitles on the bottom. But I remember, they have like commercials during the movie. And
Man,
they say, coming back.
Yeah, imagine if it was still in like, if it was in like a Spanish dub.
Oh, I'll find it.
A Spanish dub of Lost Boys.
It's not Michael, it's Miguel.
Yo todavía creo.
I would love to see that. I'd love to see Spanish Lost Boys.
You know what? They would still sing that song in English.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Because it's so good. You can't, change anything about it.
You can't dub it.
Yeah, but I saw it as a kid visiting my cousins in Mexico, and I was like, "The hell are you guys watching these leather boys riding down the beach of Santa Cruz?" And I saw it, and it was great.
Yeah. Like I said, it was a great 80s movie. It was like, let's face it, it's not scary.
No,
it's not.
It's fun scary.
It's fun. As a kid,
back then it was fun scary.
Yeah.
Now it's just fun.
But now you think about it, and it's like, it's baby's first vampire movie.
Right.
But good.
It's funny because it's like it came out in the 80s when everything was cool.
Yeah.
Violence was cool, horror was cool, everything was cool. It wasn't too serious.
No, it was definitely it had that like Goonies, almost like, or Monster Squad.
Well, the producer.
Yeah, it had that Monster Squad, like you could pick out a bunch of movies that feel the same but are still awesome, like Goonies, Lost Boys, Monster Squad. What else am I thinking? So yeah, it came out around the perfect time. You had a ton of movies almost similar to this one. You had the Goonies, you had the Lost Boys, you
classics,
had Stand By Me, anything with Corey Feldman.
Yeah. He was a big staple in the 80s.
Yeah, he was a staple in the 80s, and all these movies felt like coming of age movies.
Right.
Even including a vampire movie still felt like a coming of age story of somehow. But yeah, let's, you want to get into it? You want to start recapping this movie?
I will. Okay. So, our movie starts with probably one of the best songs in the movie. Besides, I Still Believe.
Oh.
It was I always thought the song was already from the 80s, and then they put it in the Lost Boys.
Yeah.
It was made for the Lost Boys.
Are you talking about what is it called? Cry
Little Sister.
Yeah, Cry Little Sister.
Yeah.
Yes.
They made it for the Lost Boys.
Really?
Yeah, that's crazy because it's such a good song.
Did you know Marilyn Manson covered it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't like put two and two together that, oh, it's for the movie.
Yeah.
Listening to, like, reading the lyrics and stuff, like, of course it is. Like, why would this be an 80s hit? You know, no, it was for the Lost Boys. And then afterwards, it was a cultural song, you know.
Yeah.
Knew. But the movie starts. Cry Little Sister's playing as they go over the ocean.
And it's what, like an aerial view of, let's just say,
Ocean.
I was going to say the Santa Monica Pier.
Santa Cruz.
Santa Cruz.
Mm-hmm.
But the city is called Santa Clara.
Carla. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's Santa
Santa Carla.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the town is Santa Cruz. They talk to the Santa Cruz officials because Santa Cruz officials have to do with, like, Hollywood and stuff.
Yeah.
And they're like, you can't name this town Santa Cruz because it says the murder capital of the world right behind the billboard of Santa Cruz.
Yeah.
You have to make a new billboard and call it something else.
Yeah, so it's the town of Santa Carla.
Right.
So you get an aerial shot of that Santa Carla.
The pier.
Boardwalk.
Beach. Fun. A lot of Get Out vibes. Not Get Out. A lot of Us.
Yeah.
By Jordan Peele
Yeah.
vibes. And that's another reference. Because they interviewed Jordan Peele about the boardwalk from Us. They're like, oh yeah, it's based off the Lost Boys.
Okay.
He just straight up said it. But the movie starts out and they are...
Yeah, so
Santa Cruz was telling the Lost Boys people, you can't name this town Santa Cruz because we want tourism back. So you have to name it Santa Carla. The reason why they wanted tourism back is because Santa Cruz was all over the news because they had 3 separate serial killers.
Oh man, I can only guess. I'm assuming it's not the Lakeside Stranglers. No, Richard Ramirez, right, was one of them.
I'm pretty sure.
So you don't have the list of the 3 serial killers?
No, because I was just gonna drive right by it.
Okay, sorry. All right, yeah, moving on.
So we open up and we're in the merry-go-round.
Yes.
And we get introduced to the Lost Boys. David, played by Kiefer
Sutherland.
So good. Snake himself.
Oh, I was gonna say Jack Bauer from 24.
Or the guy from Stand By Me.
Or the guy
who was also with Corey Feldman.
Yep.
And Kiefer Sutherland and the gang, they're causing up some trouble in the merry-go-round.
Yep.
And so, of course,
he looks at some guy's girlfriend.
Oh, yeah.
And he tries to, like, pick up on her.
Oh, yeah, for sure. The guy just happened to be a punk also.
Yeah.
And so they're causing a little bit of trouble.
Some ruckus.
The security guard comes out. He's like, hey, get out of here, boys. And they're like, all right, let's not, ruffle any feathers. We'll get out of here.
Yeah.
And so it cuts to security guard is walking by himself to his car after his shift.
The lights all go out. Okay, so a little tangent about this scene. The scene, like, brought back memories of me working at Legoland.
Oh no.
On, like, the late shifts when we'd close at, like, night.
You saw someone that looked like Kiefer Sutherland? Mix of Billy Idol and Dio, the vampire, not the singer.
Yeah, but no, that scene, like, I remember walking home and walking to my car and feeling super uneasy
when to look up into the sky.
Yeah,
it's a quick one take.
Yeah, exactly. But the scene is pretty terrifying.
Oh yeah, because we only see the security guard's reaction because we're coming in through like a helicopter shot.
Yeah, some flying POV, and they take the security guard. Something takes him, flies him up to the sky. Yeah, with so much force that it grabbed him and he ripped his door off the hinges of his car.
Yeah.
So
he almost escaped.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen that way. And so, yeah, they got revenge on the security guard pretty bad. But Yeah, when they don't show like everything, they kind of lets your mind fill in the blanks, which is scarier.
Yeah.
So that's the good 80s scare for you. You know, your mind is doing all the work. But they also did it because they were low on budget. Originally, they had about 20 million to make the movie, and then once Warner Bros. Found out who the cast was, and it was like just models.
Yeah.
And Kiefer Sutherland. They're like, who are these guys? We don't know anybody. Bill and Ted hadn't come out yet.
Yeah.
And so they're like, well, your budget was 20 million, now it's $8 million.
Wow.
Just because of the cast. Warner Bros, dude. No faith.
No faith.
No faith at all.
Wow.
Until Bill and Ted came out. They're like, all right, you can do it. That's fine. And so now it cuts to the next day, and we meet Michael and Sam, and they're driving.
And their mom, Lucy?
Yeah. So they're driving with their mom, played by Diane Wiest of Edgar Scissorhands fame.
Edgar? Edward.
No, Edgar. Edgar Scissorhands. She played the lady that brought Edward home.
Yeah.
Not home, but back down from that hill.
Yeah. And
what else was she in?
I don't know.
Yeah, just Edward Scissorhands. But at the time.
Yeah.
And so they're
moving from Arizona to Santa Carla.
And the kids are upset.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, why do we have to leave Arizona? Like, good.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Are you kidding me? Now you're in Santa Carla?
Santa Carla seems so cool compared to Arizona.
Besides the vampires.
Yeah.
Yeah, go stay home at night.
But, yeah, so this scene, they're driving from Arizona, and they pass the sign that says, "Welcome to Santa Carla," and you see the
billboard.
The graffiti that says "Murder Capital of the World." And then it cuts to my favorite cover of
People Are Strange.
People Are Strange by Echo and the Bunnymen.
That's right.
And all those shots of those like 80s punks, and
hell yeah.
I'm like, why was I born?
Our kind of people.
Yeah. I was like, why was I born too late?
Well, we'll bring it back one day.
Yeah.
Great soundtrack.
Great.
But Joel Schumacher was also a music video director.
Yeah.
So he was like, I'm gonna make this soundtrack be so.
That explains a lot of the scenes that feel like music video shots.
Oh yeah.
This scene feels like a music video. Later on when we get to it, but yeah, and it ends with them
meeting Grandpa. They meet Grandpa at his lodge. His lodge is so sick. His cabin lodge.
Oh, yeah.
Not cabin lodge, but it's like a lodge.
Yeah.
And it's just filled with oddities. There's taxidermy everywhere. There's like native but you're totem poles.
You're skipping over the fun, like one of the funniest moments. Their grandpa is quite a character. Like he's always doing something.
I'm getting to that part.
But you skipped over the whole faking being dead.
I was getting to that part.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to jump the gun.
Well, I guess I kind of just skipped it around. I didn't skip it around. I just had them backwards.
Yeah.
Because I was explaining the house first.
Yeah.
They're meeting Grandpa by meeting his house. They see everything. And then they get to the front porch. And right in front of the door is Grandpa dead on the ground.
Yeah.
Which is, clearly he's not dead. And so he's laying there and he gets to jump on them. Quick little jump scare for all the kids.
Yeah.
And he helps the family settle in with his impractical joke.
Yeah, and then one of my favorite things is his explanation of the rules of the house.
Yeah.
The first one being the second shelf in the refrigerator is his. Mm-hmm. That's where he keeps his root beer and double stuffed Oreos.
Right.
And then the explanation on the TV guide, how he's really particular about the address label if it's peeled off. And then Sam is like, well, does that mean you have a TV? And the grandpa's like, no, I just like reading the TV guide. If you read the TV guide, you don't need a TV. But yeah, so we meet Grandpa, we see the house.
Right. And now the sun sets and we get introduced to my favorite character in the movie, played by Tim Capella. The sax man.
The sax man. Like this is a music video shot.
Oh yeah.
And this guy is like a jacked Kenny G.
Oh yeah.
But
baby oil.
Baby oil.
Huge muscles. Long ponytail.
And like chains everywhere.
Yeah. And he can sing.
And he's playing the saxophone. Like the most non-metal but metal sounding
instrument. He made it.
Yeah,
he made it super metal.
Yeah.
So Tim Capella is playing at the beach, and we get introduced to Star, played by Jamie Gertz.
Yep.
And Jamie Gertz, she was the first time I like really saw her after The Lost Boys was in that show Still Standing, where she played like a house mom in Chicago.
Yep.
And she has that deep Chicago accent, you know? And she and when I'm watching her in the movie, like recently, I'm like, where's that accent? I want to hear Star talk to Michael about, you know, fighting David and vampires in her Chicago accent.
That would have been great.
That would have been so funny. And so she's running to the crowd to watch Tim Capello, because who isn't?
Yeah, exactly.
He can capture the whole town with his music. So she's running over there, and we find out
his music saved my life.
I'm just gonna get Tim Capello tattooed right here. Just it says I still believe. And so we see Michael and Sam also watching, because who isn't?
Yeah.
And then he sees Star from like afar, and he's already in love.
Yeah.
From the moment he sees her. And so he's like, you know, stalking her pretty much after that. And Lucy, we get to Lucy, the mom. She's walking the boardwalk, and she's looking for a job. She runs into a video store, and we get introduced to Max, played by Ed Herman from the Gilmore Girls. Have you seen the Gilmore Girls?
Yeah. Who hasn't
the
seen
dad?
Yeah.
Yeah, the dad from the Gilmore Girls is in a vampire movie.
And we get introduced to Max and his dog Thor.
I don't think so.
Or Thorn.
But I don't think he's there yet.
Yeah, no, he's in the video store. He keeps him around all the time.
Well, all the time?
Yeah.
I mean, we see him later at the house.
No, he's in the video store.
Oh, he's in the video store.
Yeah.
Not too important though right now. And so the Lost Boys walk into the video store, and they have a small talk with the clerk girl, who's actually an entire character that they erased from the movie.
What?
They talk to her for 1 second. They say, hey, how's it going? She said, hi. And there's a bunch of deleted scenes with her as like a side character.
Could you imagine?
I'd be so mad. All that work and just be cut out of the movie.
Yeah.
Do you still get paid?
Probably
not. If she's not in it, maybe she got royalties later in the DVD. But she's an entire character that got written off. And so, Max.
Well, I don't know if you're going to bring it up, but we meet Lucy. She walks into Max's video store because she notices a child. Well, she's walking the boardwalk, and I don't know if you mentioned the wife of the security guard that we saw earlier is hanging up a missing persons poster with the security guard's face on it.
Right.
And she kind of like looks away because she felt like embarrassed looking at the lady. And we see Lucy notice a young boy get lost. So she goes up to him to like console him and walks him in, and that catches Max's eyes. Like, oh, she's got that motherly instinct, and something like entices him about her.
Right.
And that's when the boys walk in. So, but yeah, I wasn't sure if you were going to cover that part.
Okay. So Max sees Lucy, and then the Lost Boys show up.
Yeah.
And then Max sees them. He's like, hey, thought I told you never to come by here again to my shop. The Lost Boys are like, all right, hey, we're out of here, man. And they hop on their bikes and leave. And then that's when Max offers Lucy the job.
Yeah.
That she was looking for. So we get back to Michael and Sam walking on the boardwalk. And they decide to split up because Michael is going to go after Star, and Sam is going to head over to the bookshop, comic book shop, looking for his Batman number 14.
See, this part of the movie, I'm a little torn. I kind of relate to both.
What are you gonna do? Pick the
the
woman that's leading you through the boardwalk, or are you gonna go get that Batman 14?
Can I do both?
I mean, don't follow the woman. Because jail immediately. Go get your Batman.
Yeah. If I learned anything from life, is comic books will keep you out of trouble.
Yes, they will.
And a virgin forever.
So, I almost called him Corey. So Sam walks into the comic book shop, and that's when we meet the Frog Brothers. Corey Feldman and Jameson Newlander. And these guys are teenagers, probably around the same age as Sam, but they're running the comic book shop.
Yeah. I mean, it shows their parents, but their parents are like two stoner hippies just asleep.
Sick.
And so they're running the whole thing by themselves.
Right.
So
they meet Sam, and they basically find out that Sam has a lot of like comic book knowledge.
Yeah.
Because he's like rearranging their shelves for him.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, you're not too bad of a guy, so we're gonna cut you some slack and give you this vampire comic that's basically like a survival guide.
Yeah.
And immediately he's like, oh, I'm not into horror comics, and doesn't take it.
But no, he eventually takes it
after
they tell him like there's a lot of weird stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then we see before the scene cuts, we see those same punks from the beginning of the movie.
Right.
And they steal a comic book, and the Frog Brothers just take off running after him.
I mean, I really wanted to see that scene where he just takes out this whole gang, the shoplifting his comic books.
Yeah.
But we get to Michael, who follows Star, but finds her on the back of David's motorcycle.
Well, yeah. So she's about to get on Michael's motorcycle, right?
Right.
They go up, and then David shows up, and he pretty much kind of like bosses her to get on his bike.
Right. So when she's on the motorcycle, David smiles at Michael, and then the boys ride off. Super gay. This is the gayest scene I've ever seen. David and Michael should have been
shipped. Would you ship those two?
It was never about Star. It was always about David.
David and Michael.
That look they gave each other? Come on.
And then the other three vampires are just a thing together.
Yeah, there's
Marco and the two other guys.
Right.
The only reason I remember Marco is because it's Bill.
Yeah. And so they get back to we get to the gang that steals the comics.
Well,
so Michael runs into Star.
Okay.
And they start talking. What are they talking
about? Is this the hippie scene?
Yeah.
Where she introduced herself as Star, and he's like, "Oh yeah, your parents too?" And she's like, "What?" And he's like, "Oh, well, I was close to being called like Moon Child or Moonbeam."
That's such an 80s thing.
Yeah. But that's when Michael is introduced to the boys.
The boys. The Lost Boys.
The Lost Boys.
Yeah, and that's when we find out that Star is basically David's property.
Yep.
She hops on the back of his bike, and he gives Michael a sly smile, and he drives out.
Yep.
And then we get cut to two of the punks that stole those comics. The couple, they're in the car in the back seat, and they're reading these comics, and the guy is trying to cop a feel pretty much, and that's when we get our second
flying POV shot.
Our second flying POV shot, and this time the entire roof of the car gets ripped off, and then you get to see.
So whatever these creatures are, they're strong.
Yeah, and they're flying.
Yeah,
and they're just snatching people up, but they take those two punks, and as they're screaming away into the sky.
Yep.
Sounds awesome. The sound was. So now it's the next day, and Michael's back at the boardwalk. I also think it's funny. No one's like, calling the cops.
Is it the next day or the next evening?
Well, that whole attack was at night.
Yeah.
Because the vampires were out.
Okay, so.
And now it's the next day, but it's at nighttime pretty much.
Okay.
The sun is still out. It's about to set.
Okay.
Because Michael's buying clothes. He's buying a leather jacket, clearly to impress David.
Yeah.
And not Star.
You're gonna ship those two?
Hell yeah, dude. So he gets a leather jacket for David.
For Star.
And then he notices someone getting their ear pierced.
Yep.
At the boardwalk, and he's really like into it. He's like looking into seeing how they're doing it because he clearly wants to get his ear pierced to be like David,
or like me,
or like you. That's true. And so that's when we run into Star. We run into Star one more time. I got a whole paragraph.
Yeah,
David and Michael.
Yeah. Well, so Star pretty much tells Michael that it's a ripoff. And that if he wants to get his ear pierced for David, that she'll do it for free. And they walk over to his bike, and they're about to take off.
That's right.
And then
David shows up. So you know it's nighttime now.
Yeah.
The Lost Boys and David show up, and David is like, Star, what are you doing? I'm just gonna go on a ride with Michael. You know, no big deal. Star.
Yeah.
That's all he says.
Yep.
And she's like, well, I have to. Sorry, Michael. And then that's when he tells Michael, hey, you know the lookout point?
Yeah.
Over by the bluff, by the buff? And he's like, I can't beat your bikes, man. He's like, you ain't gotta beat us. You just gotta keep up.
And then we get it cuts to them like riding through the beach and stuff like that, and we get that awesome like other 80s song, Lost in the Night. Well,
Lost in the Night.
While they're like driving through it. Man, this town is so weird. There's like a forest right next to a beach, because at one point they're driving through trees, and then it's a beach, then it's like a giant mountain.
This is all in LA.
Yeah.
This is all filmed in LA. They, like, all these places are still there. So they're not too far away from each other.
No, but yeah, so
those bikes are sick, by the way.
The bikes are sick. They're all like customized. They're just dirt bikes with like
they're dirt bikes, but they look like choppers.
Yeah.
they're basically just like skinned down motorcycles.
And Michael's is just a regular dirt bike. That's why he can't keep up.
Right.
But yeah, those scenes where they're just like riding through the night, and you can like, it's all foggy and stuff. They can barely see in front of them and everything.
Motorcycle, not Q&A, but just a tip. Don't ride in the fog. I did that this morning, and like my shades, I didn't know they could have fog, like rain, because of the mist.
Yeah.
Just cover your vision completely. So I'm constantly doing this as I'm riding in the fog. They were riding without a helmet.
Yeah.
All those guys. The Michael and the Lost Boys. But Michael soon finds out these guys are like adrenaline junkies, because they're racing these bikes in the fog. They have no idea where they're going. They just know they're going to the cliff. And Michael and David, they kind of meet up. They catch each other's speed.
Yeah, they're playing like a high speed like game of chicken.
Right.
And Michael almost goes over the edge. He like just stops before it, and David's laughing at him, and he punches Michael Michael punches David in the face and says, you and me, just us. And David pretty much was just like messing with him, like he wants to initiate him.
Sick.
So
he wants to kiss him.
They just, whole time I'm just like, when are they gonna kiss already? But this ain't Twilight, so that doesn't happen.
Doesn't happen in Twilight either. I was waiting for that.
I know.
I still haven't seen Twilight. I'm just joking.
I've seen them all. Future episode.
And so the Lost Boys invite Michael to their cave hangout.
Man, isn't this the coolest hangout ever?
So they, moving away a little bit, they brought this set, the cave set, to this event called I Love Scary Movies in LA. And I took a photo op in the cave.
No way.
I sat in David's chair. I drank the bottle. They had the box of noodle maggots or noodle worms.
Yeah.
And it was like right there. It was so sick.
What's the matter, Michael? You don't like any noodles?
How can a million Chinese people be wrong? That was so good. And so there, we get a shot of the Lost Boys vampire cave, and of course, there's a giant picture
of Jim Morrison on the in the background, and there's, I forget, but there's a scene later on where it shows Michael, and you can cut it like. He's kind of like fading away, but the last image is Jim Morrison behind him.
That's right.
Because they have like the same like
hair and face.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought I was like the only person that noticed that part. I'm like, I wonder if that was done purposely.
I mean, I like to think that David used to date Jim Morrison, and now he can't let go, so he's got Michael, kind of like a Jim Morrison lookalike. You could be
Is this your fanfic?
This is now my fanfic of David and Michael.
You can read all about it on his Reddit page, his Lost Boys fanfic.
And so now it's a scene where the Lost Boys are about to eat, and they offer Michael rice, and Michael goes, "No, it's okay, David, it's fine." And but David goes, "Come on, how can a million Chinese people be wrong?" And so he starts to eat the rice, and he's like, "How do those maggots taste?" And he's like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Maggots. You're eating maggots."
So, down. All right. So Murderface, because they gave him weed before this started. So
what?
Yeah, before
they gave him weed.
Yeah, before they eat and everything, he gives them the joint and he smokes it. So that's why he's kind of looking kind of like high and like, I don't know if I should eat that right now. So do you think these are illusions that David is causing Michael to see, or is he tripping?
It's definitely illusions.
Okay.
Because it's basically like vampire lore that you can change things to look like other things.
Yeah.
Because they had this scene in The Lost Boys, but this scene was so big in like pop culture that other vampire TV shows and movies did like their own version. So if you've ever seen We in the Shadows,
what we are in the
what we are in the shadows,
or what we do in the shadows,
right?
Yeah,
they do the same thing.
Yep.
They're like, how about some noodles? And they show the noodles are worms,
Yeah.
And they say like the Lost Boys reference.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, it's because vampires can do that.
Yeah.
The weed thing though, I'd like to meet some vampires that are really high.
Well, I mean, they didn't smoke it, but they gave it to Michael, so that's why I'm like, is he tripping balls, or are they doing like, is he messing with him with their mind powers?
Now here's another vampire lore question. I thought vampires aren't supposed to eat.
That is true.
Like, it makes them sick.
No.
Like, they're only supposed to drink blood. Like, that's their way to feed.
Yeah.
They can't have food or water or nothing.
Huh. Interesting.
They talk about it more in Interview with a Vampire.
Yeah.
So, very famous scene. Lots of TV parodies happen after that. And so David takes a swig of this wine bottle and says, "Drink this, Michael, and be one of us." And so Star is like, Don't
do it. It's blood.
Yeah, it's blood.
And he's just like, yeah, right. Because they've been messing with him.
Right.
And he takes the biggest swig ever.
Michael. And he chugs it.
Yeah.
And then
peer
Cry Little
pressure.
Sister
Peer pressure.
playing. Yeah. It was so good.
So after we get the introduction and the whole wine drinking, it cuts to them driving off into like a train track, like a bridge that's over like a canyon.
Yeah.
And they all get off their bikes and they're walking across the bridge, the train tracks, and one by one they all start to like jump through the cracks of the bridge.
What are they up to?
Yeah, what are they doing? And David tells Michael, he's like, come join us, you're one of us. And so he drops down, and of course Michael's like unsure, so he kind of like crawls in instead of just dropping straight down. He like and they're holding on to some kind of like suspended wire underneath the bridge. and they're all just laughing, having a good time, and then the train comes along.
Oh yeah.
And it starts shaking the wire they're all holding on to violently, and one by one they're just letting go and falling into the fog. And Michael's just like freaked out. He's like, did these guys just die? And then right before, David's just like, just do it. You're one of us now. There's nothing, you don't have to worry about anything. And he drops into the fog.
Right.
And then finally Michael decides to, well, I don't think he decided. I think he just lost his strength.
I mean, the train is right above him. It's shaking him off that wire.
Yeah. So, I mean, they had to have some crazy upper body strength.
I mean, another, I am bragging a little bit. I also did this photo op. They had the bridge, like, photo op right next to the vampire room that I was at. And you get to take a picture. They made fog right underneath.
No way.
So all you have to do is hold on to like a bar and lift your feet up a little bit. And it looks like you're holding onto the bridge that they were in.
That's crazy, dude.
It was sick.
We'll definitely have to hit up some of these
photo op places again.
Yeah.
And real spots too.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. The bridge is still there.
Yeah. And then, so yeah, finally Michael lets go and he drops into the fog, and we cut to him waking up in bed.
That's right. It's a great transition from him falling through the fog, and now he's on his bed.
Yeah.
And so he gets a call from Lucy.
Mm-hmm.
Lucy is telling him, you know, hey, I need you to watch Sam for tonight. I have a date with Max. So things between Lucy and Max are going pretty good. And so he basically says, all right, fine, I guess. And so Max and Sam are in the house, and they hear revving from like outside, and it's the Lost Boys. And so
wait, Max came to their house, right?
No, not Max.
Or you meant Michael and Sam. Sorry.
Oh, sorry, my bad.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute. Okay.
Yeah, I was thinking of Max and Sam the game.
Yeah.
Michael and Sam, they hear the revving from motorcycles outside. And so they just like hear it super loud. It's shaking their house. Headlights are going through their windows. You know, they're freaking out. So Michael goes outside to investigate.
Yeah.
And they're gone. Like, clearly, it's the Lost Boys, you know, flying with their motorcycles.
Picking them up.
Holding them up. Floating them up to the second floor to, like, shine the headlights in their faces.
Yeah.
And then they fly away. I like to think it was like how witches have brooms.
Yeah.
These vampires just have motorcycles.
Vampire bikes.
Vampire bikes. What a crossover that would be.
The future episode.
Future episode. And so Michael and Sam are, you know, calming down, and they're in the living room, and they both look at the mirror, and they realize that Michael is losing his reflection. Like, he's basically invisible.
Yeah.
Much.
Translucent.
Translucent, yeah. So Sam realizes that his brother's now becoming a vampire, a shit-sucking vampire. And he's like, you wait till I tell Mom. And he's so upset.
And they like run upstairs, and he starts to call, and he's trying to like grab him and stuff like that, and he's on the phone with his mom while he's doing that, and she's like freaking out and leaves her date early, like stood up Max and came home. But yeah, and they just play it off like nothing happened.
Yeah, I read a scary comic book.
Yeah,
that's what I meant when I called.
After that whole ordeal, and Lucy comes home, it cuts to Michael sneaking out of the house.
Teenagers.
Yeah, well, hormones.
Oh yeah, hormones.
Yeah, so he sneaks out of the house, and he meets back at the vampire hideout, the Batcave.
Batcave. It's accurate.
Yeah, the Lost Boys Batcave, and you know, Star is there, and Michael wants to know what's up, but Star says that she can't say anything, and they make sweet, passionate love. But I guarantee you, Michael was thinking of David.
Oh, it should have been David. Get out of here, Star. No, you your Chicago accent. You want David.
But yeah, so they you know, post coitus, then we cut to the next day, And Sam and Lucy show up at Max's house, bearing gifts to apologize for standing him up.
And leaving the date immediately.
Yeah, exactly. And so Sam is reading that horror comic, and he's reading a section of it where it explains, hellhounds. And as he's reading that, Lucy gets chased by Thorn, whatever his name is, the dog that Max owns, who has been nothing but nice up until this point. And it just tries to maul her.
Viciously attacks Lucy.
Yeah, but she's able to escape him and gets back into the car.
Funny thing about that scene is that Joel Schumacher was talking about how Lucy is basically named after Lucy from Bram Stoker's Dracula, who also gets turned into a vampire via the wolf beast Dracula form.
Oh, okay.
In the movie. So there's kind of like a Lucy and this beast, and Lucy and the beast from Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Okay.
It's all a vampire reference.
Okay. That's
yeah.
Huh. I wonder, is there more sprinkled throughout the movie like that, or
not a lot?
But okay.
It's basically more like Goonies references.
Yeah.
It's the producer.
And then so after she nearly gets mauled to death, it cuts to Sam heading back to the comic book store and meeting up with the Frog Brothers, and he's telling them that his mom was almost attacked by the dog. That Max must be the head vampire, because all vampires enlist the help of hellhounds to protect them during the day.
Right.
So the Frog Brothers agree that they need to check this Max out. So they come up with an idea to invite him over for dinner, and
like a small vampire trial.
Yeah.
Like a test to see if he is what they think he is.
Yeah.
Max, Lucy, Sam, and the Frog Brothers are having dinner. And Lucy just says, "Man, someone around here has really bad breath." And they all look at Max.
Yeah.
Like, Max is looking around like, it's not me, And then it cuts to Lucy. She's talking about the dog, because the dog is right in her face.
Yeah.
And then so the Frog Brothers and Sam, they're basically trying to get, they're putting Max through these vampire tests.
Yeah. The classic garlic, reflection, stuff like that.
Yeah, they put garlic in his food. They put the mirror in his face. He has a reflection. It doesn't work out. And then Max goes to Sam. He's like, "I know what you're up to." And they're like, what do you mean?" And he's like, "I get it. You think I'm replacing your father because I'm dating your mom. Don't worry, it's not like that at all." And Sam and the Frog Brothers are just like, "Yeah, sure. That's way more plausible than what we were doing."
Yeah.
Yeah. So now Michael meets up with David and the Lost Boys.
Yeah.
And he finds them at the beach, stalking the beach punks at the bonfire. And this is when we first see the gang turns into monster vampires.
Yeah.
With like no eyebrows, the muscle on the forehead.
Yeah, protruding forehead. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
the yellow contacts and
oh yeah. It's basically the Buffy vampire look, but Joss Whedon says that his vampires were a reference to the Lost Boys.
Yeah, okay.
So it's the similar look. And so David goes to attack one of the beach punks by chomping on the back of some guy's skull and just blood shooting out.
This is what I mean by it didn't get violent until like the close to the end, and this is where the violence kicks up. And
that was just David.
Yeah.
Taking a bite out of some guy's head. Another Lost Boy rips some guy's arm off, and they all start to feed. They all start to feed on this gang.
And they're throwing some of the body parts into the bonfire as it's just chaos.
Chaos. It's too much, because Michael is like watching all this, and he's like trying not to basically turn.
Yeah, because he doesn't want to vamp.
He doesn't want to vamp out. And so he half turns. And so he immediately leaves and runs back home to Sam. And when he gets there, he's telling Sam everything. He tells Sam everything that's going on. And then we hear Star outside the window. And so they look down, and Star's outside. She's like, I need to talk to you. Michael's like, no, get away from me. And so he turns around, and then suddenly she's in his room.
Yeah.
So she flew up to his room, and that's when we find out that Star is also a vampire.
Yep. And see, this scene is confusing because earlier we saw a scene where when Max showed up to the dinner party, and before Michael leaves, Max is like, "Are you going to invite me in?" And he invites him in. But with Star, she just walks in. So is it a thing they can't walk in, or is it a thing that they can walk in, but other rules apply?
Well, we also have to think that they're different from Max because he was out in the daylight.
Yeah.
At one point.
Mm-hmm.
And he also ate that garlic. And he also had a reflection.
Yeah.
The vampire rules don't really apply to Max. But Star shows up in his house, uninvited. And she basically tells Michael, you were supposed to be my first kill. Like, she just started the vampire game. And she didn't kill him.
Her and the little boy that you want to just skip.
You son of a bitch.
Named Laddie.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Tell him about it.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you about Laddie. You almost erased him from history.
You erased it?
Eraserhead him. Yeah, randomly, in a couple scenes, there's this little boy named Laddie, and the costume design for him is so weird. It's he looks like he's wearing a little Confederate soldier outfit throughout the most of the movie. But yeah, he's very unimportant. But I just needed to bring up the fact that there's a little boy running around with a Confederate jacket for no reason. But yeah, so Star tells him that she was supposed to kill him, but
Star is trying to convince Michael to turn to the South. The South will rise again.
Yeah. So after the conversation with Star, she takes off, goes back to the Batcave. Sam and Michael decide to meet up with the Frog Brothers, or call them, and they devise a plan to go and rescue Star and Laddie and kill the Lost Boys in the daytime. So it cuts to them the next day, and they take the grandpa's car and they drive to the bluffs where the cave's located. So Michael they all run in, and the Frog Brothers see Star first, and then they plan to take her out. And Michael's really defensive, so he's just like, no, not her, and he decides to rescue her. While he's taking Star and the little Confederate boy to the car, the Frog Brothers and Sam decide to venture further into the cave to look for the Lost Boys. And they see some flies, and they mention they're getting closer because flies are like guns and bullets. Like, wherever there's flies, there's vampires. And did you want to chime in with the...
No.
Okay. No, never mind. So they continue to follow the stench and the flies, and they get into a secret like cave within the cave. And they notice that the Lost Boys are hanging upside down, and this is the first time we see them. No, second time we see them like full bat looking.
Right.
They have bat feet and everything. It looks so cool. And the Frog Brothers pull out the stake and decide to take out the little one first while they're sleeping, which happens to be Bill from Bill and Ted. And they stab him in the heart, and he just starts oozing out like just shooting out a bunch of like blood, viscous like liquid.
It really makes you think, how much blood does a vampire have?
Yeah.
When you impale them upside down.
And I mean, their blood looks like crude motor oil.
Yeah.
It's all like viscousy and just sticky looking, like maple syrup. And while Bill is convulsing and dying, it wakes up the other ones.
Right.
And David starts to chase the Frog Brothers and Sam out of the cave. And just as they're about to escape, David grabs Sam's foot and starts pulling him in. And the Frog Brothers jump on the Sam and start pulling him into the sunlight. And that catches David's hand on fire. So he retracts it and goes back in, and, you know, they all speed off in the car back to the house. You know, they have to gear up.
Nice.
So, after they escaped, they escaped. They head home to prepare for the battle.
That's right.
So they decide to go and get holy water from the nearest church. And as they walk in, it's in the middle of a baptism, so it's kind of
course,
awkward.
The holiest of holy waters.
Yeah, it's a little awkward when they walk in, but they don't care. They're just filling up their canteens and there's
water pistols.
Yeah, squirt guns and stuff. And so they head out, you know, and they decide to go back home. And as they're at home, you know, they're crushing up garlic, you know, and they
dumping garlic into the holy water.
Yeah, exactly.
In the bathtub.
In the bathtub. It's like watered down garlic holy water.
Yeah.
And they start boarding up the windows and the door. They light a fire just in case someone comes down the chimney. And
as vampires do.
Yeah, exactly. So then it cuts to the sun going down. And
battle time.
Yeah, battle time. And Sam notices that they left the dog outside.
Yeah.
So they run outside to save the dog, and we get another flying POV. So that lets us know that the boys are there.
The boys are back in town.
Yeah, the boys are back in town. So, you know, they run back inside. They think they're safe. But one of them comes down the chimney, and the other two are already upstairs.
They're fucked.
Yeah. So they kind of split up. The Frog Brothers get chased upstairs by the blonde one. The
hot one.
Yeah. They're all hot.
Oh yeah, that's why I said the hot one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that for every single one of them.
But yeah, they tried throwing garlic at him first. It doesn't work. He laughs in their face, and then they spray him with the holy water that's in the tub, and that pisses him off.
Oh yeah. I mean, any type of holy water would piss me off too.
Yeah, so he's about to like kill them, and the dog runs in and pushes him into the tub.
Great dog.
Awesome dog.
Hell yeah.
We got to do a tier list of dogs in horror movies. Or cats.
Yeah.
But you know, that starts melting him in the tub.
The melting of the vampire.
It's so such a good scene. Mm-hmm. Like he's going underwater, and he comes up, he's half melted. He goes back down, comes up, and he's just he's a Party City skeleton.
I love it.
Yeah, but
so 80s.
So and that causes all of that pressure causes the pipes to burst and it shoot vampire blood all over the house from every sink and toilet in the house. And it's just like spewing everywhere. It looks like a bad Chipotle aftermath.
Looks like every woman's bathroom.
So, you know, it gets back downstairs and there's another one fighting with Sam. Mm-hmm. And the
hot one.
Yeah, the hot one is beating up Sam, and the hot one takes him up into the air, and he's gonna kill him up like while they're flying, but Sam squirts him in the face with the holy water, and that they both fall back down to the ground. And as the vampire's recovering, Sam gets his grandpa's lucky Chekhov's bow and arrow and shoots it directly at the vampire. Like, for someone who's never fired a bow and arrow, that was the perfect shot.
He's born for this.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But it sends the vampire, it gets him through the heart, and it sends him flying into the stereo. And we get an awesome like electrocution death.
Sparks are flying.
Yeah, it's that CGI 80s lightning that you see in movies at this time. And you know, it's like electrocuting him so bad his like head explodes.
His head explodes. His hand pops off.
Like
his whole body is just exploding.
Yeah, exactly. They go flying in different directions, and you know, we get a pause for a second, and we get the line "Death by Stereo."
I'm getting that tattooed on me.
Death by Stereo. So yeah, we think everything's all right. Like, we took out 2 vampires, and David is not around. So
Right.
Sam runs back upstairs to meet with the Frog Brothers, and David finally shows himself. You know, he's been hiding up in the rafters in the darkness, and you get this cool shot of him like popping in and out, punching Michael, and then hiding. And Michael finally is like, "Oh, all right, David, you know, quit being a chicken and fight me one-on-one. You're scared." So they both vamp out, and they're floating in the air, trying to shove each other into
Thrusting each other
into hard wooden objects. You know, they're flipping each other around. First Michael's on top, then David's on top, and
This is so gay. This is the gayest scenario I ever heard. If we weren't talking about vampires fighting, I would think you're talking about Michael and David, who's fighting to see who's being on top.
Yeah.
One's flipping the other one. One's thrusting the other one.
One's penetrating the other one with 10 inches of hard wood.
Who's the top? And it was always kind of like David was the top, and he's trying to get Michael to be the bottom.
Yeah.
Because David's a vampire and Michael wasn't.
Yeah.
But now they're both monster vampires. So now we're trying to see who's going to be on top.
So yeah, in this battle for the top position, it looks like David gets the upper hand, and he's about to push Michael into a stack of like deer antlers, but Michael's able to like reverse it and pushes David into it, killing David finally. And we finally, yeah, we think it's over. But then we notice that Star and Michael haven't reverted back to human.
That's right.
So, who is the top vampire?
Right.
And as they're questioning who the top vampire is, Lucy and Max come home. And Lucy is flipping out from all of the chaos and stuff.
The blood all over her walls.
All over the place. You know, broken windows, you know, just destruction. And Max goes into the room where David is. And he starts to like caress David's face and like closes his eyes. And we get the big reveal. Max tells Lucy, I was hoping it wasn't going to come to this. You know, I wanted you to, you know, ever since that night you helped that little boy, I knew you were the one that was supposed to be my kid's mom. And
Vampire kids.
Yeah, his vampire kids. So we get the reveal that Max is truly the head vampire. And everyone's like, but how? You passed our test. And he's like, well, you never invite a vampire in.
Oh, loopholes.
Exactly.
Making all those tests null and void.
So after the big reveal, you know, they all start to bum rush him one at a time. But he's smacking them away with one hand.
Yeah, he's one-shotting all of them.
Exactly. And he gets Sam in a headlock, and he tells Lucy, you know, join me and I'll let your boys go. So Lucy agrees, and
of course,
you know, it's noble. She wants to save her sons.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, but at what cost?
Yeah. But so they switch positions, and she is now the hostage, and Max is about to go and bite her neck. And what do we hear? We hear good old Grandpa's horns from his truck, and we see his truck burst through the walls of the house, sending up this big, huge log stake thing that he was putting up earlier in the movie, flying through the air. And as that happens, Michael pushes Max in the direction of it, and it gets Max right through the heart, sends him flying into the chimney, and we get a large explosion.
Right.
Huge fireball.
Oh yeah. It was basically like worst version of Final Destination 2.
Yeah. So after that's said and done, Michael and Star finally revert back to human, and the Frog Brothers get in a line. They look at each other and they're like, "How much should we charge them?"
Yeah.
After all this
A
destruction.
fat paycheck for the Frog Brothers. You're gonna get their Batman 14.
Yeah, and then but the grandpa is the one that gets the final word in the whole movie, and he goes to the fridge to grab his root beer, and he's like, you know what, I can't stand, or he's like, I can't stand. Oh,
there was one thing I never could stomach about living in Santa Carla.
Oh yeah,
was all the damn vampires.
Exactly. There you go. And
Finn.
End of the movie.
Grandpa knew the whole time?
Yeah.
You could have said something, Grandpa. Dick.
Well, I mean, he gave him hints and stuff and was always just like, all right. The kids were always like, okay, crazy Grandpa.
There should have been a big clue when they were having dinner earlier and Grandpa wasn't there.
Grandpa wasn't, no, he was on a date.
No, he was in the room with his own plate of food.
Oh, okay.
Because he would open it a little bit, look at Max, and then close it.
Ah. Okay, so Grandpa knew.
Yeah, Grandpa knew. Lots of
hints.
Lots of hints throughout the movie.
That Grandpa knew. That's why he wouldn't go into town.
That's right.
Why he had the giant wooden stakes.
Yep.
Like, who puts those up? Pointy side up.
Yeah. He also lives
away
from everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it was definitely it is definitely a product of its time.
It's an 80s movie.
It's an
80s ending to an 80s movie.
80s ending to an 80s movie, and just perfect.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. There's not much in this movie that I would change.
Oh no.
No.
There's a lot of things that they did change.
I think
to make
for
the
better.
movie how it is. Originally, the producer was supposed to be the director, and he wanted to have the vampires, like the Lost Boys, be 10 years old, and Sam and Michael were going to be 8 years old, and it would have been a kid Lost Boys movie. Can you imagine that? We wouldn't have the sax man.
No sax man.
We wouldn't have the sick motorcycles.
No sex scene between Michael and Star. Probably no Star.
No Star, yeah. It would have been a completely different movie.
No innuendos between Michael and David.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this movie was so good that years later they made sequels out of this one.
Yeah.
And have you seen them?
I have not seen any of the sequels.
So I have seen the sequels.
Yeah.
They are terrible.
Garbage. Oh man.
They do bring back
the Frog
Corey
Brother.
Feldman.
Yeah.
Just him.
Really?
Into the first sequel, and in the second sequel they brought back both Frog Brothers.
Okay.
But other than that, the stories are completely boring.
Irrelevant.
Nothing to do with anything. But it was funny because they were Joel Schumacher was interviewed later, and they asked him about the sequels, and he goes, "What sequels? The Lost Boys die." And I'm like, yeah, that should have been the end. And he suggested that they should have made a girl version of the Lost Boys, the Lost Girls, and have girl vampire bikers. And I was like, you make that right now.
Yeah, sure.
What are you doing? Don't tell people that. Just do it.
Shut up and take my money.
You make those vampire biker girls right now, and I'll watch it.
Yeah.
So lots of good ideas came from the Lost Boys. It was definitely a huge cultural impact. It made both Corey's careers, because before this, Corey Feldman was in Goonies, but this really
was this before or after Friday the 13th though?
I mean, come on, Corey Feldman, Friday the 13th wasn't. It made his career.
Yeah, this movie definitely made his career.
It definitely wasn't Friday the 13th. But it made so much history. This movie, it influenced every great vampire movie.
Definitely.
Is just another stepping stone in vampire lore.
Yeah, definitely. It plays with a lot of vampire lore. Mm-hmm. It definitely influenced more vampires after it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an all around awesome movie.
Very good.
Yeah.
And it's what was your favorite kill in this movie?
My favorite kill is definitely, it's got to be the bathtub scene.
Oh, the bathtub scene is so good.
Yeah.
I mean, you wouldn't expect the the resurgence of him after he's melted, and then you see a skeleton.
Yeah.
The
The bathtub scene was pretty good. And yeah, that's my favorite scene. What about yours?
I think my favorite scene has to have been when the punk couple are in the car, and the top of the car gets ripped open, and then they get sucked up into the air.
Yeah.
That was, you don't see it, but I like it like that.
Yeah.
Less is more, and it reminded me a lot of newer horror, where they try not to show so much and just leave a lot to the imagination.
Yeah.
That was my favorite.
Okay.
But definitely, this movie definitely had a lot of my favorite characters in horror movies. David is such a good character.
David is an excellent character.
Oh yeah. And it's funny that he was interviewed later, and he said, I just want to say something about the Lost Boys. It was my idea for the hair, because he saw Billy Idol his hair like that, but he didn't want it just short, because the director really wanted everyone to have long hair. So he kind of inadvertently invented the mullet by having Billy Idol's hair like how it is, but with the long hair in the back. So
wow.
Yeah, he definitely created something there with the mullet.
Magic in a bottle, or lightning in a bottle right there.
Lightning in a bottle right there.
Yeah.
But also, it's such a, you wouldn't expect this kind of movie from the title The Lost Boys.
Yeah.
Because you expect a bunch of Peter Pan references. But now I think of Lost Boys and I just think of this movie. There's no connection to Peter Pan whatsoever when I think of Lost Boys now.
No. But yeah, it's definitely it's definitely an icon of a movie, and hopefully we have more. We're gonna have more of these iconic movies that we've seen 100 times.
Right.
So you guys are just gonna have to keep staying in tune. But yeah, this has been
Monsters, Movies, and Mayhem. Signing off.
Yeah.
Wish my eyes were yellow.
Oh man.
Monsters, Movies, and Mayhem.